Hey folks, you're listening to Melk Radio News at the late night news hours at 12 midnight. Tonight we'll be looking into some fascinating stories. On the list we have healthcare and the Canadian pension plan with Phil Flint, the October crisis regarding the FLQ with Jake Johnson, the cancellation of the Avro Arrow with Tyrone Jefferson, also sports covers the Summit Series over with Jerry Gino, and finally the multilateralism showed by Trudeau over the international law of the sea and the UN, which will be presented by the man himself, Tyrone Jefferson, again. First, over to Phil Flint. He will talk about healthcare and the CPP.
Good evening, folks. This is Phil Flint. I'm here to talk to you about healthcare and the Canadian pension plan. As we all know, we have free universal healthcare today, but I'd like to talk to you about the history of how healthcare came into Canada. Medicare became a reality in Saskatchewan when it was first introduced by John Diefenbaker. By 1961, all Canadians had access to public hospitals insurance, but health care outside hospitals were not covered. Once universal health care was established in Saskatchewan, Diefenbaker set up a royal commission to report the most effective way of providing health care to Canada. In 1964, adequate health care was a right of citizenship. By the time the commission report was released, Lester B. Pearson had replaced Diefenbaker. Pearson needed to stay in power of the NDP, so he reached an agreement with Douglas and introduced universal healthcare in Canada, which created a non-profit universal healthcare for all Canadians. Let's talk about the Canadian pension plan. By the mid-1960s, federal old age pension plan was not keeping Canadians over 65. The use of federal government proposed the Canadian pension plan. The Canadian pension plan was introduced in 1966. This plan required every employer to pay off a specific amount every year to the pension plan. This was a turning point in which strengthened the federal-provincial relationships. We designed the Guaranteed Income Supplement in 1967 to help these who have no income or not enough income to contribute to the Canadian pension plan. We have made also low income costs to seniors for permanent lifetime, which was introduced in 1971.
Thank you, Phil. Now we'll be on scene with Jake Johnson, and he will talk about the October crisis and the FLQ.
Thanks, Jim. Yes, I'm here at the scene where the bomb detonated. This is to be suspected of another FLQ violent act.
How many of these violent acts have there been?
Before this one, there has been 200 acts of violence, as 5 people have died in them, and even more of this have been injured.
Do you have any idea why these have been happening?
People are believing that they have been doing these acts to encourage rebel acts that could overthrow the government and put them in power. The FLQ has been doing these violent acts to get the government to change to an independent country and to make sure that the French people are staying true to their culture.
Why did these acts start?
These acts started because of the death of Marquis Duplessis, that people believe the FLQ was responsible for his death.
We have heard rumors about the potential kidnappings of James Cross and Pierre Laporte. Do you think these are any signs of things to come?
Yes, for sure. I think it may be heading downhill as these incidents have brought this issue to the extreme. Although I get the feeling that desperate times will call for desperate measures, and this may lead to the solution, especially since Trudeau has now involved the War Measures Act to include declaring who politically supports the FLQ to be a member, arrest and hold any member of the FLQ without bail for 90 days, impression that the FLQ members for up to 5 years. All of these lead me to believe that this will come to an end.
Wow, that's great. This certainly gives a good idea of how things are being handled in this situation. Thanks. Now back to Jim. Thanks a lot, Jake. Now we're going back to Tyrone Jefferson, who will be talking about the Avro Arrow.
Thanks, Jim. So the Avro Arrow canceled on February 20th, 1959 by John Diefenbaker. So, first of all, going into the history, the Avro Arrow was built to the fear of a possible Soviet attack. In 1953, the government paid for development of a new aircraft for the RCAF. The machine was built by A.V. Rowe Company. It was an all-weather supersonic jet interceptor. On October 4th, 1957, it had its grand opening. The jet was to be placed across northern Canada to protect from a Soviet attack or potential aircrafts that could be flying over Canada towards the United States. The debut was overshadowed by the Sputnik 1, which was thought to be a more advanced technology that the Arrow would not be able to stop, that was being built by the Russians. So Diefenbaker settled for used American jets eventually after he canceled, and they were the Voodoo Fighters.
How did it stop?
It stopped?
There's not enough storage to record video.
Oh, Keegan. I mean, delete stuff.
Mine's still going.
Oh no, now we're just stupid.
Just keep it going, just keep going. Never mind, we're going again.
Sorry, there have been some technical difficulties. We're back on air. Yep. So back to the Avro Arrow. Everything was destroyed by Diefenbaker and the government, completely scrapped. A.V. Rowe lost jobs, and most of its most advanced placed engineers, left the country to the United States to go work for other companies. Back to you, Jim.
Thanks a lot, Tyrone. Now we're going to go to Jerry Gino with the Summit Series. Thanks, Jim. The last few weeks, all of Canada put their lives on pause as they came together to watch the Summit Series. The USSR was a sure bet to win the series, and most people thought that they could even sweep Canada. It wasn't looking good for Canada when the USSR was up on Canada 1-3-1. Canada came back to win the series 4-3-1 by winning 3 games straight. In Game 8, Paul Henderson scored with 34 seconds left to put Canada up 6-5. All of Canada went crazy, and I know for myself everything went away, and I have never felt more proud to be Canadian. It will truly be a moment that I will remember for the rest of my lifetime. It was a moment for Canada to remember forever. Back to you, Jim. Thanks, Jerry. Now we're going to go back to Tyrone Jefferson again, and he will be talking about multilateralism and Trudeau.
Thank you, Jim. Here we are, multilateralism with Pierre Trudeau. So after the Manhattan incident, Trudeau asked the UN to change the international law of the sea to include protection for Canadian Arctic waters. Trudeau and Canada use a multilateral approach with other countries. So, why is this important? It helps middle powers like Canada, Australia, to increase influence in the world, which is something Canada really needs to build a stronger connection with other countries worldwide. And it requires building cooperation with other countries and helps to get involved. And it also shows some improvement in the diplomacy of Canada. Now back to Jim.
Alright, thanks a lot, Phil, Jake, Tyrone, and Jerry. This is Melk Radio, signing off.